So how do we raise the bar on the talent coming into research? How do we make it more interesting, more sexy, if you like, for people? You know, how do we get this fresh talent into the business that we're going to need?
I mean, first of all, I don't know that there's anything that could be more exciting than research, like getting to understand real people and what's really going on. I think that we've just hidden it behind a veneer of figures and kind of grey suits, and then wondered why people don't think it's a sexy industry to enter. But if you have a look at what's happening in research, and you maybe compare that with the agency world, I would say research is more interesting. And we've got good young people coming into research within MESH. They're looking at different agencies, they're interviewing at advertising as well as research. But actually, they see that this is interesting from a psychological perspective, from a technology perspective, and I think we should just be confident about it.
But what we need to do is use the people we get within the first 2 years and they arrive in the industry. We have these recruitment processes, we make them stand up and give presentations, we give them some mock data as part of the graduate recruitment scheme, and we find out that they're exciting people and they can do things. And then we grind them down for 4 or 5 years, and then we say, now present, and they've become wooden replicas of the rest of us. So we've got to start letting them do it straight away. No process of going all the way up the tree. Get them presenting to real clients in the first 3 months, get them giving their opinion, put them on their strength, get them saying to clients, if you don't understand this, you're old, listen to me.
Yeah, I think the old model is that we tell them what we want and see if they fit or not. Maybe now we'll listen to what they want to do and see how we can adapt to that.
Well, if I look at my 16-year-old son, the talent is coming. That's clear, because a lot of what is needed for that, they have an intuitive way of learning it. And the learning agility of that generation, I think, is what is going to bring the talent to the market. The challenge is on the people that are working in the industry now and how they can catch up. But that's where I say, well, let's agree we have another few years to go.
That's a very interesting point. So you're not worried about the fresh talent. I mean, as long as people join market research, you know, but actually it's the current, it's the I don't know, re-education or letting go of the old ways.
It's opening up to some elements, because you know, with a lot of this stuff, it's still in the experimental phase. But we've never been afraid of experimenting as an industry. It's just when technology kicks in that sometimes people are kind of resistant to it. Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the fact that today's generation of young people coming into the workforce all over the world, not just in the developed markets, but all over the world, they're not coming into it necessarily just for the money, they're not coming into it because of the titles, they're coming into it for the experience. And you know, there's a basic truism anywhere around the world that if you're a career builder, as our company calls them, you know, the first 10 years of your working life, primarily you were there to fill in forms and stamp things, you know, and we've got to stop that, because you've got to give people the creative rush to be able to create new things right from the beginning.
I remember the moment my boss said, I'd like you to pick up the research team as well, and my heart sank and I slunk down in the chair going, oh no, I'm going to leave all the creative energy stuff in marketing and go and do some bookkeeping or whatever. But actually, so I think I've actually found the experience much more enjoyable than I thought I would, and much more stimulating. So I'm quite keen to try and circulate people through from other marketing disciplines into research and research into marketing, and try and create some sort of broadening of experience, so we don't categorize people as researchers or marketeers, or they're just, you know, people who are interested and curious in how customers behave. So.
Market researchers are still seen as somebody who stands in the street and asks questions, and that's increasingly out of date, but people don't understand what market research is, and I'm actually still not convinced that using market research is the right term, because I think it's quite narrow. I think we've got to understand that there are other ways of collecting data, and if you're going to integrate those, then maybe to call us the insight industry is a more encompassing term.
I think there is a lot of, it's not always clear what our industry is about. At Bakmar we did a small piece of research to look at what's the image of a market researcher. And to put it in one sentence, it's not a geek, because geek is, now it's like hot to be a geek. but it's more like a nerdy kind of guy who's sitting behind his computer and who is kicking on doing the latest trick in statistics.
I heard earlier from some other people that you know, it's pretty geeky. I mean, market research can be a bit geeky and it attracts the geeks. Unfortunately, instead of geek chic, you know, instead of the kind of the creative end of geeks, it's kind of just geek. I mean, it's dry stats and maybe not, you know, it's solid, but it hasn't got a panache, it hasn't got flair to it. And I don't know, how do we, you know, how do we attract a bit more creative types, you know, people who can do something with the numbers?
Well, perhaps it's the people who are teaching it that we might change. Perhaps we should get Hollywood actors and directors to teach people how to communicate the research, how to be more, how to impress people with the results, or to deliver the results and follow through on them. Teaching people by university professors can go so far, and in this world I think you need a lot more than that.
Every year I think at ESOMAR we try to do some new things at the Congress to see the way in which our industry can do things differently. It's been very interesting to me today to watch a couple of the presentations earlier this morning that really showed some innovation in the way in which they got across their message. And really the idea behind Research Idol was just that. What we wanted to do was to ask individuals to stand up and be prepared to get on stage and deliver what they felt was a real message, some real idea about their attitudes to a particular subject within the market research field, and explain it with no props, no PowerPoint, no charts. Just explain it in a way that entertained you, made you remember it, and made them memorable. And hopefully that reflects what we're going to do with our clients. We're going to deliver the message that makes a difference to them and make ourselves memorable enough so that they want us to come back and deliver the next message.
I think we have to take a leaf out of what ESOMAR has done this year, introducing new talent. We have to create innovation hubs where, in the same way that you would invite the best brain, we've just seen in the talk by Jonah Lerner, to create solutions to problems, maybe our big companies can take a leaf out of that and bring in maybe key European companies to create little hubs where we can create the best of for our country.
I think the best thing would be to have people that are very passionate about research, like the two of us, and many more here, and just like spread this passion for research. And I think it's just, I mean, if talents see that research is fun and not just boring numbers and tables and bar charts and stuff like that, I think passion can just like jump over like a sparkle that spreads. And I mean, we can share the passion then of like doing research, changing things by sharing it with the new talents.
Honestly, I always believe that, you know, why do people desperately want to work for consultants? Because they earn a lot of money and because it's so difficult to get there. So I think we don't have any hurdles, so everybody can call themselves a market researcher. So I think it would be already helpful to have a minimum as, you know, as a qualification to say, you know, this is a market researcher. I don't want to avoid that people from other industries get into research. I think that might be extremely helpful, but we should have, you know, a minimum qualification for becoming a researcher, because this would mean more value for everybody who works in the industry and also for people who want to get in.
I think one of the things that any industry looking to improve the talent base is that it has to improve the value of the jobs on offer. So if you want to retain your staff in any given company, give them more interesting jobs to do is one thing. If you want to recruit new people into the industry who currently find the industry perhaps a bit dry and a bit lacking in excitement, then you need to make the industry more exciting. And I think that it doesn't go any further than that. We have to be a more interesting and vibrant community of practice, doing more interesting things.
I think that it simply gets broader in terms of who it communicates to and how it communicates and where it tries to draw people from. I think that we're fairly traditional in the sense that we still look for people who come out of business programs or who come out of research, professional market research programs. But increasingly, we are looking outside of that to other disciplines. And I can speak very specifically, two of the most talented people that currently work for me, both of whom joined General Mills in the last 5 years. One of them has a degree in English literature, and one of them has a degree in sports psychology.
Fantastic.
And so being able to, now the first trick was getting them in, and the second trick is the one that you allude to, which is how do you keep people energized and keep the kind of creative juices flowing against the issues that are out there?
Honestly, I think we have in the last 20 years all been accidental researchers. Yeah, so we've all kind of emerged into this profession by, through following very convoluted pathways. I think what is lacking is also a top of mind kind of an awareness among the industry, among MBA students and grads, that this is actually a very exciting, very intellectual, very multidisciplinary profession. And it's a great career option if you really are good enough.
And the winner is the lovely, the singer, Namita.
I went to the young researchers' presentations yesterday, and I was absolutely astonished and bowled over by the content, the poise of them, and everything they presented. I know they were a little bit disappointed that not more people were in the audience, actually. So I think there's some learning we can take from that we can give them a wider audience.
It's funny that we do market research, but probably we're not as good as doing marketing about what we do. When you think about the challenges that we're facing and the richness of what we do, right? You wonder, why don't we communicate better how rich and how motivating it is to do what we do these days, right? Especially if the environment is changing. So I think that our first challenge is to really communicate that to be a good and value-added researcher, either on the supply or in the research side within a company, you need to have a lot of skills that are not commonly known for people that stereotype what a researcher is. And in this Congress we're exploring that. I mean, in this Congress what we're trying to do is kind of like make sure that people understand the context of the change and understand how to respond to these challenges. And we see there are multiple skills that we need to acquire to respond to that challenge. And I think that is a motivating challenge for people that are currently in the industry and for students that look for something to do in their lives.
We have to make market research sexy. And I use the words deliberately. It's so un-market research to, I'm afraid, talk about sex in the same sentence as research. And I think it is the kind of geeks will inherit the earth, but it's the kind of geek chic, not the geek thing. I'm afraid, market research can be so dry and so statistically wrapped up in its own kind of importance.
From what I saw in this conference, market research is becoming more sexy already.